Well, good morning, everyone. There we go. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 9th day of September, 2019. Well, we begin the week with a sense of completion, don't we? Maybe we're moving from one phase to another. We're starting something new today, maybe. But the moon's still in Capricorn until, let's see, 2:24 today, my time, Pacific Daylight Time. I guess we're supposed to be possibly moving into just one, well, there goes a card, one time. Let's see, it was the Three of Cups. Pay attention to that. Anything you throw down on the floor is usually important to remember. But anyway, I think Oregon's going to move to just one time frame instead of daylight and Pacific Daylight Time and Pacific Standard Time. So I think at some point we're not going to fall back or spring forward. We're just going to stay put in one of them, and I don't know which one. I really don't care. I mean, I'm used to it, but at the same time it would be nice if we just got used to life as it was instead of trying to manipulate. There's other states that don't do this. I don't think Arizona does. And I think other states, I'm not sure if it's the entire West Coast that's thinking about it. That would be interesting, though, wouldn't it? But usually when one does something, the others tend to follow. So, we're kind of a monkey see, monkey do thing over here. But it makes sense, because there's so much synchronicity on the coast over here. Same with over on the East Coast as well. So I don't know. I think it just makes sense if we were all just aligned in the same way, and then we wouldn't have to deal with it anymore. You still have your time zones, of course, but this artificial thing that we do every year, I don't know. I guess it was for farming, but I don't know, I'm not even sure that was really what it was. Usually they'll tell you one thing, but it's really something else. Some really stupid idea that served maybe just a handful of people, and then the rest of everybody just has to make do, I guess. Well, in any event, I hope you guys had a good weekend. We were harvesting tomatoes and broccoli, and I don't have that much broccoli. I planted some more because I want to have that as part of my fall garden. And the cauliflower is looking really nice. The cabbage is starting to, when it first starts to kind of bring the leaves up a little bit, when it's starting to form the heads. I mean, there's no head there or anything, but it's just so cool when you see that process start, So we'll see. I haven't grown stuff like that in a while, but we decided to do it. I've actually had broccoli going all summer, which I usually don't. I don't like to fight the cabbage moths and the worms and everything, and so I didn't have any floating row cover, but I do now, but I don't have it on. So a lot of good that does. It usually takes me a while before I finally do what I'm going to do. But in any event, I canned, let's see, how much? Well, I've got 24 pint jars of salsa. Let's just put it that way. 12 of them I did yesterday. I had to buy a new water bath canner. My other one was just, everything was flaking off on the inside. It was getting disgusting. And so I bought another one, and we're taking it out of the car. And my husband's like, I think that's a little bigger than what you had. I'm like, you think? I don't know. Sure enough, it can do 14 pints and 9 quarts. So it's the big one. And I mean, it worked, I think I did 12. Did I do 12 at once? And because that's all the salsa I had, but anyhow, it was cool to make it, and it's really yummy. And my husband was even having some, and he's not really one to reach for tortilla chips, I guess. I don't know. I mean, he will, but he's not somebody that'll sit and snack on them. So, but he was really into the salsa. He thought that was great. So we've been doing that, and we finished out the corn, and I don't know. I've been gathering whatever herbs I can too. I gathered some hawthorn berry. Oh, the other thing I did is I started harvesting the seeds off my Job's Tears. If you guys have never grown Job's Tears, it's cool. Now, it kind of looks like, when it's starting to grow, it looks like corn. But what it is that it's like an old-time grain. But what it does is, instead of just little tiny seed heads at the top, like oats and wheat and all of that does, what this has is it has these little seeds about the size of my finger. I don't have any over here, but anyway, I'll show you tomorrow. I'm stringing them together on wire. They kind of have a hollow center. I mean, it's kind of filled with fibrous stuff, but you can put either a wire through it, or you can put a needle through it or something to clean it out, and then string it on a wire. I like to do that whenever I'm drying, ceramic beads I'm doing, but I like to do them on something. Rather, because I'm always worried the hole's going to close over when it dries. It probably won't, but you never know. I just never can tell. So anyway, so I've got these all strung on wire, which is really cool. And so they'll dry, and they'll be different colors, probably mostly white, but there's some that get real dark out there, and you're supposed to, I guess, pick them when they're green, but I don't think so. I picked them all colors the other day, and they all seem to string just fine. So anyway, I'm doing that. And they used to be used in olden times for rosary beads. After they were dried, they'd be used as rosary beads. So they're just really cool, and I'll show it to you. When you buy the package of seeds, I mean, that's what you're buying. You're buying the little beads, basically. They're the size of beads, and they're just cool. Anyway, I'm doing that as well. And so I guess that's pretty much. Okay. So as far as the blog goes, over at imsteppingaside.com, over at Stepping Aside, the Monday correspondences are up for today, including both astrological and witchcraft correspondences. And the other thing that's up is the weekly Rune and Moon. I did do a significator with a geomancy rune this time. I didn't last week. I just totally forgot. And I had just done the monthly geomancy reading, and so I guess I was sort of felt like I'd already done that, but this time I went ahead and I put it back in. And so we're going to be looking at a little bit of unstable energy this week, but it also is positive. It's Puella. So it's fortunate, but not too fortunate. A young girl energy, so lots of promise. Maybe a little impetus for the rest of the week for everything else that was on there. But go check out that weekly Rune and Moon if you like that sort of thing, over at the blog at imsteppingaside.com. And I think I've shuffled enough, so let's get started. I think that's enough housekeeping for the morning. Kind of give you an update on what's been going on in my life and with the gardens, and plus what's going on the blog right now. So anyhow, let's go ahead. I'm going to take a drink of tea here. It's my morning honey and lemon cleanse. Oh, we started walking again, so we're back to that. So I'll see if I can get through this without, collapsing here. No, we didn't go that far. We're not going to do the 4 miles right off the bat. We're doing a little over 2. We extended it a little bit more today, maybe 2.5. So tomorrow we'll either do that again, or we'll do maybe a little bit more. Maybe we'll go 3. But by the end of the week we'll be back up to our 4 miles, and that'll be nice to get that all started again. It's hard to do it in the summertime. It's just too hot and too much chemtrail activity and just too much to do around here. So anyhow, let's get going with our first card. If it's your first time here, thank you so much for coming by. Welcome. And if you're back, thank you so much for sticking with me as we grow our tarot and rune family here together. It's the 8 of Swords. We see the castle in the background. We see a woman in a red gown. She's bound, both with a rope and also with a blindfold there. She's surrounded by swords. Now, from a personality standpoint, we can look at this. We can look at the cards in a couple different ways here. We can look at it from the standpoint of ego. If you know anything about astrology, there's traditional astrology and then there's esoteric astrology. Now, most people function and align with the energies of I shouldn't say most, but many, traditionally, and we all do it, right? Align with the traditional interpretations of astrology. However, now that we are in ascension mode, whether we know it or not, we're actually starting to move into a soul-based awareness or spirit-based awareness or higher self-based awareness, whereby we are now thinking about things differently. So we can look at things from a traditional standpoint in terms of the cards or a more esoteric standpoint. And I think that what we've been doing here is trying to move into that spirit-based, more esoteric type of a, soul-based type of an awareness. So typically what you would say with the Eight of Swords here, we're looking at an 8, which is higher self energies. It's a higher level of harmony. So the greater awareness of the collective consciousness even with the 8. But here we have a woman who is bound and she's surrounded by swords. Swords is the air element. You see emotions though, because you see the water. She's standing in she's on some red soppy sand, right? It's just icky looking, isn't it? And so there's been a battle here. Now, traditionally, how I will read this card is I will say, well, she's getting in, we're letting our thoughts get in the way of what we need to focus on. There's just too much going on, and in a sense, we're kind of getting in the way of ourselves. The other aspect, though, the esoteric aspect of this, though, might be to say that we are going within and we are shutting out everything that's around us, and we're allowing only the voice of spirit to inform whatever is going on. You see the swords pointing down into the sand. They're stuck into the sand. So you're talking about if you're looking at directionality, this is a sense of self-imprisonment, if you will, if you want to look at it from maybe the beginning standpoint of this is maybe one that she has engaged in a little bit of self-imprisonment with her thoughts. And now she's choosing to go within and to allow the soul experience to lead her out of this, morass that she's basically found herself in or put herself in. The thing about swords, we can see the idea of others involved. Particularly with the Three of Swords, you can see that that's a drama triangle and that something's happening behind your back, jealousy, betrayal, or something like that of some kind. And that could also be what's happening here. She's just very, very burdened, very overwhelmed, and she's just got to shut everything out and allow a deeper focus. And so I think then we'll start then for today with that as the premise. And if we draw some cards that maybe need to go in front of that, maybe describes what's really going on for her, maybe what started all of this, then we'll do that. But otherwise, we'll start with our first card with the Eight of Swords. And let's do another card. Now I'm going to, if you haven't been here before, I'll draw between 3 and 4 cards, and then I'll do a rune from the Elder Futhark. And then at the end, I will create a geomancy rune, just sort of tie it all together. Or sometimes it functions as an outlier of just one more thing to remember. There goes another one. Well, it's the moon. So we had the Three of Cups, which is harmony and fellowship and all of that, mind, body, spirit balance that fell on the floor. And now we have the moon, which is some deception and embracing the shadow side of self. And it aligns with today being a Monday. It's a moon day. So anyway. But today, again, the moon's in Capricorn until the afternoon, about 2:30 in the afternoon, when it moves into innovative and humanitarian Aquarius. So that's cool. Aquarius is a fun sign. Sometimes it can be eccentric. Sometimes they can be aloof. But typically, they're an air sign, so I tend to get along with them. I'm a Libran, so I tend to get along with Aquarians and Geminis pretty well. We tend to gab. So anyhow, let's do our next card. And did I say that I put the Monday correspondences up, which is both astrological and witchcraft? I don't know if I said that. I meant to. If I didn't, that just got posted. So anyway, we have another 8. So an 8 energy is going to be Now, 8 is also one thing I forgot to say about the 8 is it's also leadership skills, strength, So here we have, the card of strength from the major arcana, taming the wild within, balancing the wild with the civilized self, unconditional love, even. I was trying to see if there was something there in the background, but the woman has got a garland on her head. She's on her in her hair rather. She's got actually sort of the garlands are draped around her. This is a card of trust as well. But you see the lemniscate above her head, the figure 8, and that's what that denotes is an ever-ending or never-ending process or cycle, right? And it's a never-ending cycle, I think, that we have all of the time, is where we're trying to balance, shadow side of self with spirit, if you will, or the wild with the civilized. We're always trying to deal with the ego rearing its, I shouldn't say ugly head, because the ego is kind of exciting at times. But at the other side of that is that it's a little bit untamed and a little bit unrestrained. Think the id versus the superego. If you know anything about psychology, you have the superego, the ego, and the id. And everything is a triplicity in life, if you didn't realize that. But it is. Think about it. Everything is in triplicity. There's always this balance between the higher self and the lower self, and the self in between all of it, And you could call that, you could call the id the personality if you want to. You could call the ego the personality, whatever you want. Anything that isn't of spirit. The Course in Miracles would say that its basic premise is nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And if you understand that, you don't need to read the book, basically. So it's very long. It took me 30 years to finish it. I would go halfway and I would get busy and I would stop and I would do part of the workbook, and I would stop. And then finally, my husband decided to, he didn't have time to read it, so he listened to it on tape. And then he would read too, but he would mostly listen to it on tape while he's outside working, There's my husband, black belt, listening to the Course in Miracles, which I thought was a miracle in and of itself. And if it was affecting him so profoundly, because I'm like, here, do this. And so, okay. And so I started doing it all over again. And we would ultimately even have, at 3:00 every day, we'd have miracle hour. And we would just sit in and we would read from out loud from the Course in Miracles. And wherever we were up to, and we would read it out loud and talk about it. And it was just a really nice way to spend an hour out of our day. So, and we really ended up looking forward to it. But I thought it was so interesting that my husband would do that. In a way, he was manifesting, the 8th card from the major arcana, strength here. He was manifesting that, where he's taming the wild and the civilized self within, allowing goddess presence to take hold and balance some of that. So that was kind of an interesting time. That happened. When did we do that? Did we do that it was either 2013 or 14, or maybe it started in 2013. We'd been going through some difficult times, and we wanted to have some kind of to step away from, all of the stuff we'd been experiencing. We had some major transitions in our life at that point. And so we just needed that moment of clarity, I think, that moment of alignment where we could do that together, where we could ignore all the nonsense that was going on outside the door here. And because we were tired, and we came home to a bunch of weird things going on, and we're like, oh my God, and it was very stressful on us. And so we were really blessed to have that moment out of every day to just have miracle hour and do that. And so it was very healing anyway. So anyway, let's take our 3rd card and see if that's the last one for today. Well, maybe not. We have the card of death. The 13th card of the major arcana, we see the king dead on the ground there on the over here by my finger. You can see that. You see other people over on the other side. That's the priest is there. You see a woman and a young child. She's likely the queen, who's in misery and emotional because the king is dead. We see the beautiful white rose of purity and rebirth up above on the flag as death rides through on his white steed. We see over there, let me put the cards down so I can use both hands. Over here, look right here. You see the pillars, which is a recurrent theme in tarot, and the sun rising between them. So rising on a new day, rising on a new path, rising on our new experience, our new life, essentially. So death is basically a card of transition and rebirth. It aligns very well with the rune Hagalaz, which would be interesting if we pull today from the rune bag. Also, Hagalaz is the 9th rune of the Elder Futhark, and being a 9-day and a 9-month, we would have some alignment and synchronicity there. But basically what Hagalaz deals with is destruction and preparation for change, and that's essentially what we're talking about with the card death. We're talking about transformation, change, rebirth. It's a very positive card. There's nothing negative about it. But we have Yira, which is the 12th rune of the Elder Futhark, a 3 energy, moving energy, as above, so below, you see. We see 2 expressions also of Kenaz here comprising the rune. So we see the light turned outward and within. Kenaz is I'll draw that for you, is basically a greater than sign, greater than symbol. So when you're talking about Yira, you're talking about the light turned inward and the light turned outward. The spiritual torch within. Now, if we begin here, all right, if we begin here, what we have is that we need a new vision, right? There's just too much coming in on us. Either the swords represent thoughts of our own, or this is stuff coming in from other places and other people. We feel trapped, we feel imprisoned. But maybe her choice to do this is just that, a choice. Maybe she needs to block out everything. It's like when things get too much, it's like with us in Miracle Hour, things would be too much around here in this in our little area here, and whatever the conflict that was being sowed by other people got to be too much. We would come in and we would, 3 o'clock would be about the time we'd have to come in and we'd have to do something about that, and we would seek a spiritual solution, right? So you can't be too worried about her here, because what she's doing is aligning within. I don't think that, in other words, she's taking charge of the situation. She's turning her back to everything, and she's saying, no more, I'm going to create something new. And from that, inner strength results. Balance is achieved. And from there, transformation into a new day, perhaps. Yira, again, means year. It also means energy moving through the body. But it's very much like Gebo and balanced energy exchange, but in this case, see, and here's the thing, I shouldn't say in this case, but Gebo is actually in all directions. It also embraces Kenaz, and I'll show you that. Gebo is just an X. But here you can see the light of spirit going in all directions. You see? Kenaz is actually this one when it's done in its forward presentation. but you can see it can be turned in all directions and the light is going everywhere, you know, and in balanced energy exchange with others. Well, the same thing with Yira, only as you see, it's the light turned inward and outward, within and without. And so we're bringing all of that into balance. So I think we really start with the 8 of Swords, and then we bring in the card from the 8th card of the Major Arcana, which is Strength, and then we go to the 13th card, which is Death. So now I'm eager to see what the Geomancy rune is going to tell us. So let's see what it has to say. Now, if you're not familiar with this, I use 4 runes. They are coded by fire, air, water, and earth, and that's the order in which, the vertical order I'm going to put them in. One side has 2 dots, indicating a passive presence or influence. The other side has 1 dot, indicating an active one. There are 16 total geomancy runes. Most of them are simply you turn them opposite, and you have there's actually 8, and most of them you just turn them upside down, other than Populus and Vaya, and they become the opposite. So that's basically what we're looking at here. Well, and that's what we have. Oh, no, we don't. No, we don't. We have Caput Draconis. Wow. Okay. Let me draw that out for you. I'll show you what that looks like. Caput Draconis. The Draconis, there's 2 of them, Caput Caput and Kata. Caput indicates the head of the dragon, or the north node of the moon, while Kata indicates the tail of the dragon and the south node of the moon. And the south node is your past lives. It's past life influences. The Caput Draconis of the north node, that's about the present moment and the future. So right now we're talking about present moment things and the future. And that's just perfect for this. And this is what it looks like. We're looking at a passive influence for fire and active ones for air, water, and earth. And this is what it looks like. Turned upside down, you would have the tail of the dragon, or Kata, right? Kata Draconis. But today we're in Caput. So we have north node of the moon influences, beginnings, the future. So I think that what it's telling us essentially is that we've experienced a way of interacting perhaps with other people that hasn't necessarily felt comfortable. Or perhaps we've become scattered, too scattered in our thinking. And we've had to align. Either way, it doesn't really make any difference. Either way, we've had to align in higher self presence or source presence, or in spirit, however you want to view this, and embrace the strength within to balance and tame either our thoughts that are scattered, if they're ego-based, if they're self-serving, if they're not embracing. The 8 is suggesting we need to embrace the greater aspect of self, the greater awareness of that aspect of self, and taming the wild versus the civilized side, finding that balance. We've got Yira that is providing the energy for that process, to find that energetic balance, to allow the light of spirit to inform within, and then to express that enlightenment outward, allowing the transformation to take hold so we can explore new experiences in a way that's more balanced, perhaps, less scattered, more in tune with our true nature of who we are. You know, Caput on a Monday here, on a moon day, basically, is perfect because it's a very positive type of a geomancy rune. It's letting us know that new experiences are on the horizon, that we can let go of that which no longer serves us, either within or from without. You know, maybe we stop paying attention to the chatter and we get more focused into what we want. Either way, the Yira of the moment is we're allowing that balanced energy exchange based on the light of spirit to inform. So I'm looking here with the retrograde planets. We're looking at Pluto still dealing with karmic debt. Saturn, we're visiting old issues, gaining a little inward discipline. Neptune, focus on this on the spiritual versus the mundane. We're to remain in the observer mode and in higher self mode. Chiron, we have issues of healing. Chiron's the wounded warrior, and so we need to really heal within now so that we can then be better with other people in terms of our interactions. Less grievance based. I mean, this is like Chiron is like totally active right now because we're in this grievance based existence right now. And the thing is with Chiron in retrograde, this gives us the opportunity to revisit some of that and really look at it and say, well, golly, is that something that is really happening now, or am I simply applying the wounds of the past to this present moment? Maybe I should try to see this through a little less I don't know, subjective lens, maybe. We're very committed to our wounds, aren't we? Chiron's asking us right now to maybe think about that a little bit, maybe not be quite so committed to them, make them work for us on our behalf, see where we can grow from them. That's the whole point of it, not to simply immerse ourselves and live there, right? So, and Uranus is also still in retrograde, and with that, we're realigning our esoteric beliefs, and so you're looking at, if you pay attention to those outer planets, you're looking at the more spirit-based types of revelation and experience and awareness that we should be collectively, because these are collective kinds of things. You'll look at these influences being essentially being in effect during a time period, a certain number of years. So basically that's what that's all about. But I guess, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do here, is to try to take a higher self, a more esoteric type of a focus, one that's soul-based versus spirit, or rather, I'm sorry, versus ego. Mondays. Anyhow, that's, I think, what the focus of this whole video series is all about. Looking at ways that we can allow spirit to inform this process. Since we're in ascension, that's sort of what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to become aware of who we truly are as spirit versus the bodies that we're living as being all that is. In fact, that's not true, So that's my hope anyway for these readings, is that we can come together and explore these ideas in a way that maybe isn't as traditional as we thought, once thought were appropriate in our development, in humanity's development. But now we're at the place of ascension where we need to start understanding who we actually are and where we came from and where we're going. And I think that we do that by letting go of the personality and focusing more on letting spirit inform all of it, allowing the compassion and empathy and love for one another to transcend any of the isms that we feel, seeing everyone as the other side of self, versus, what we currently do is seeing people as simply the other and someone to be afraid of and to not want to be in alignment with. The idea is that we go forward in shared purpose, not necessarily, giving up who we are. We're still individuals. We still have our own contributions to make. The inner nothies, the inner friction is what should, toward that share, in service of that shared purpose, I guess is what I'm trying to say, should be the inner friction that comes out, that manifests, not the one where we're mad at one another all the time. And we can't ever seem to get anywhere. So that, I think, is the real manifestation of ascension while we're still in the body, is understanding that shared purpose that we have, that oneness that we are to one another, that seeing everyone as the other side of self instead of the other. That's the point. That is the manifestation of ascension at this time. And so that's the direction that we need to go. We see it in the card of death when we see the two pillars and the sun rising over there between them on a new day and a new awareness of spirit. So, and how that impacts who we are, because it is who we are. So anyhow, that's enough for today. We will see you tomorrow. think about this stuff and how it might impact your life. Maybe it's a new way of thinking for you, maybe it isn't, but in any event, we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming by. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.